General Lucky, first let me thank you for continuing to improve the operational capability of the total Army. Your job isn't easy in an environment where insufficient and inconsistent funding makes it difficult for the reserves to support the joint force. At this hearing last year, you referenced how crucial the National Guard and Reserve Equipment Account, NGREA, appropriation was to making sure Army Reserve units could modernize as fast as the active component. As you're aware, and has been discussed already, DoD has decided to divert $1.3 billion in fiscal year 20 National Guard and Reserve equipment funding to help pay for construction of the President's border wall. My question for all panel members is, have you identified specific requirements that will be impacted because of this reprogramming?
So to the extent that you called me out by name, Senator, let me start. So the answer is yes, and thank you for the question. As I said in my opening remarks, this is, as you well know, for the last 4 years, I've thanked and appreciated the support we've received from both the Senate and the House as it pertains to this particular source of, I'll just say, procurement capability for the Army Reserve. And as I said here earlier this morning, it represents about 35 to 38% of the procurement dollars that I have received over the last couple of years. And that's, frankly, it's a significant increase percentage-wise than what it's been over the last 10 years. So it has become, I'll just say, increasingly impactful. And that's why I've expressed here year after year my sincere appreciation for the support that you've given us in that regard. As I think I noted earlier here this morning, I've sort of been this into terms of capability, sort of like General Lang. I look at different aspects of this particular ability to procure capability, and I acknowledge that we're basically talking right now about a 1-year sort of delay in some things, but to the extent that you're asking me, what are some of the bins of things that we would have procured with the 2020, with the funds for this coming year? I would say command and control systems, some aspects of the medical readiness elements of the Army Reserve. The command and control systems being key because that's really how we get to interoperability from a communications perspective on a battlefield. As you well know, inside our RFX contract, we're looking at putting about 38,000 soldiers in America's Army Reserve into combat in a very lethal environment in less than 90 days. So criticality, being able to be interoperable is key for us in terms of our relevance in combat. And I would just say, I would key on those aspects. There's other things. There's ability to distribute petroleum products and all kinds of things in the battle space. But I would just say, bending it, those are some of the key things I'm concerned about. Thank you.
Senator Baldwin, I would say we fall into that same category. And if I could bend it this way, it is capabilities that will have to be slipped, and not necessarily any of the readiness issues that we have. But I'll tell you, it will be in some self-protection systems that we have for our A-10s and our F-16s, all the way to B-52s that we have at Barksdale, where we have some debriefing capabilities that we really need for our air crews. It'll also be in some self-protection for our pararescue folks that are flying helicopters in harm's way. But it'll be in those capabilities. Some of the money that we have, because it's 3-year money, we'll be able to bring forward for the very critical systems, but some of those we'll have to delay and continue to fund those in future years' dollars. But thank you.
Thank you, Senator. As I commented earlier, we account for about 1% of the NGREA budget. However, to put this into context of Senator Leahy's comments, if we had the flexibility to spend our portion of the NGREA budget on things like individual combat equipment, we could close our delta within 3 years.
Senator, thank you. One of the important things that the Navy asks of its Navy Reserve is to be interoperable. And that's skill-wise on an individual level, but also when our equipment operates side by side the active component. We use NGREA to provide the necessary upgrades to allow us to be interoperable. So at a broad picture, those are some impacts.
And man, we get over half of the money. Half of that 1.3 comes to the Guard, and we will lose avionics upgrades, system survivability upgrades. That's the tactical lethality piece. The domestic operations portfolio, bridging equipment, CBRNE communications equipment, all delayed or deferred, provided you give us the money again next year.